Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
And welcome back to my first episode of We Speak. So happy that you guys are watching. So today's episode, we're just going to come from the topic of church through the millennial lens. So we're going to start off by introducing ourselves and these lovely, or myself and these lovely ladies sitting next to me. I'm Courtney, for those who do not know, and I currently go to Bright Star Church of God in Christ in Watts, if you're curious. And I'm hosting this. So I'm gonna start with the one in the pink, and she's gonna introduce herself, and we'll go from there.
Hello, I'm Erica, and I am also a member of Bright Star Church of God in Christ, right here in the lovely city of Watts.
Hi, I'm Jaleesa, and I also live Bright Star Church of God in Christ. I'm Cammie, and I currently go to Life of Faith Community Center in LA.
Cool. Okay, so I basically wanted to do this video just to kind of get a dialogue going, because I feel like there's a lot more millennials in church now, obviously, and I think there is like a hard time of keeping millennials to keep going to church. I feel like there's like a lot of like migration to like I don't know, not going to church or just being spiritual, or like not really an emphasis on the benefits of church and just having, or knowing the difference between even church and relationship, because there is a difference. And so I just wanted to get that conversation going. So I'll start off with a basic question. Anybody can pick up on it. Is just how's your church experience been since being in church? And like, I mean it by saying, like, has it been positive? Have you had like a lot of positive interactions, a lot of negative interactions? Just how has your church experience been as a whole?
I can say with me, well, I've been at Bright Star for about, I want to say a little over 13 years maybe. But I've come from a Baptist church. I was raised in a Baptist church. And my experience with that, growing up, it was cool. But the older we got, it was like we had a lot of issues in the church. And there was a lot of church hurt. And it was something that I personally felt that I couldn't do. Like, I know in my heart, this is not what God is about, this is not what church is about. So I left that church and came over to Bright Star. My experience at Bright Star has been one, I could say, life-changing because of the love that we have at Bright Star. So it really changed my whole perspective on God and church and the way that God's people are supposed to, conduct themselves. Like how we're supposed to love each other. If we, have issues here at Bright Star, we work it out. And that's just something that I've learned. And, not to down my old church or whatever, but that was something that seems like it was a problem. It was never fixed. Never, no matter how many times I tried, it was like never fixed. Nobody came to like a common ground. Nobody came to no agreement to just get over it. Here we have an issue. Listen, we're gonna talk this thing out. We're gonna forget about it. We're gonna move on. So that's kind of how my church experience has been.
Okay. For me personally, I grew up in church where my uncle was the pastor, my mom was the evangelist, my dad was the deacon in the church. So church became like a routine to me. It was fun, it was enjoyable to come to. But as you grow up and you start experiencing things on your own, you kind of realize like, okay, it's a little bit more than this. Like now is the time where I need to step out on myself and build a relationship with Christ. So it's been a growing phase. It's learning more of, separating just going to church with also building your relationship with God. So.
With me, I really didn't have any bad experiences in church. The church I came from, my grandfather was a pastor, and I didn't see any problems. I mean, I'm sure there were problems, but I didn't experience any of them. The church I'm currently at, I don't have any problems there either. I think if you go there with the right intentions, I mean, that would alleviate some of the drama or church hurt, as you would say. And as long as you have a pastor that's open and is willing to take care of the problem, the issue right then and there, and not prolong it or even be messy about it, because that does go on. I think that,
And that's so true. And speaking on that, at the old church, like the pastor called a meeting, but because it was the pastor's grandchildren, that was involved, they felt that, he took our side. It was like a family against nothing. And I'm like, why? When we borrowed, we grew up together. We grew up calling each other cousins, like we were a family. And it's like one little misunderstanding or mishap, turns everything to chaos. And it got to the point where, there was going to be fighting. And it's like, this is really not, like, I love church. I love being at church. And it was like, for that to happen, you have the pastor who calls a meeting to try to get everything done, but when it's your own family that's going against everything, just pushing. It's just like, there's no way I could grow. And like I said, when I came here, it was like total different teaching for me. Like my eyes were open to so much more that I didn't get from there. So I knew that it had to be God bringing me here, because me staying there, no, I probably wouldn't be where I am today had I not left that situation.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it does take you moving or stepping away from the church. Like you were always in to really get that growth. For me, church was that was a good experience with my grandparents were pastor, first lady, and we grew up like you said, it was majority of us, it was 6 kids, so majority of the church is us, but all of us grew up as family, and it was really no differentiation. People that you grew up that was my cousin, Bright Star grew up each other hard. That's just what it was. But for me, growing up, it was fun to go to church, but it became a routine, like you said, because your grandparents are the pastor, you kind of have to be there, so it became a routine. And I think the older I got, I understood what salvation was, but I never really understood what a relationship with God was for myself, because you kind of get in feeling obligated to do or act. And so when I got 18, I was I'm just gonna be at bedside Baptist. I go when I feel, to go. Of course it didn't work out like that, because I ended up finding another church that I went to all the time, but going to the other church really changed my perspective or relationship, and learning to separate the two. Because I feel sometimes we influx the two and forget that your relationship goes outside of these four walls. It goes outside of going, praise and worship, and even though those things are essential, those things are necessary, to start you off on your week or get you through or whatever. But that really took me going outside of my family church to really get relationship. And understand what it was for myself. So I guess that could kind of lead into the next question, I guess. But what do you think the role of, I don't want to say church, but I guess church, what do you think the role should be for church? What role should it play in our lives? Because I know for me, being in church now, or being in church when I was younger, the role it played in my life was it was really more a social thing for me, to be around my family and to be around my friends, that was my social role for me. But when I got older, I was less interested in the social part of it. I really needed something to feed me. And so my church in San Francisco, it really became the role for it was to feed me spiritually and to kind of grow me up in a sense. And I feel sometimes we don't even know what the role for church should be in our lives. It's just in like a simple way. It's routine. So do you think church should play a certain role in your life, and if so, what role should it play?
I'm not gonna go talk about that. For me personally, like the role of our church, I feel that the church is supposed to train and equip us for what's on the outside, for the world, how we are supposed to live a certain way, how we're supposed to conduct ourselves out in the world. We have a lot of people that are hurting right in the church. If you're not spiritually in tune, you would never know that. And that's one thing that I commend our pastor on. And, sometimes I'd be like, I stop talking to her about it. Not really. It's like she knows. And I know that, she has that relationship with God. And then just the bond that she and I have, she knows when something's not right with me. She knows if I'm hurting. She knows if I'm, not where I'm supposed to be spiritually. It's like she knows. And she will see me, she'll be like, oh, you need to come to my house. We need to talk. I need you to call me. And I'm like, God, what now? But it's like she knows. So I think that, in order for us to grow, to learn, to be where God wants us to be, the church has to, be in tune with God, has to have that spiritual connection to where they see, okay, something's not right with my sister. Like, I need to help her. I need to pray for her. So I think, the church role is really to equip us for the word. We're disciples. Equip us to be disciples for other people, as well.
And I think it's different roles for different seasons of your life.
Right.
Like when I left my old church to go to my new church, it seemed like everything that could go wrong in my life went wrong when I started the new church. But my pastor, he is a teacher as well as, he hears from God, so he knows. I'm going through a divorce, and if I was at my old church, I would not have made it out sane. There was no way, because the teachings that are there, just the love that he gives, the concern, you need a pastor that really cares for you. You need a pastor that is after the person's, heart, their best intentions, and you just have to have a pastor that really hears from God. No fake, no phone. Like you really need a shepherd that hears from God. Like that's a must.
Right. And that's gonna tell you whether you want to hear it or not. Right. So that's just gonna be like, listen, this is what it is. You need to get it together. And that's the type of pastor that we have.
See, it would be definitely. So do you think, because for us, because we grew up in church, we kind of know the good and the bad sides of it, but we kind of appreciate it. I feel like we appreciate it a little bit more because we understand that there is good and bad sides to it. But do you think people get too hung up on, how do I say it? Too hung up on, because we said the church should play a role, but do you think that, or maybe should I say, do we feel like people sometimes have too high of an expectation on them playing that role as far as the church? Because I feel like sometimes I don't want to put this in a way that's very general, but I feel like sometimes just for people, even the church hurt people, I never understood church hurt because your job hurts your feelings all the time, but you still go.
Exactly.
And you go to school and people might get on your nerves, but best believe you want a degree, so you're gonna go. So it's do we put a higher expectation on church and church leaders who may fall short in those areas sometimes? Because I feel like we do. So do you think that we do?
I think we do. I think that the people on the outside that's not really in church, they expect us to be perfect. So when we fall, it's like they're attacking us because it's like you go to church every Sunday, you do this, you do that, but at the end of the day, we're still human, and we just strive to be better. But they have high expectations of people in the church, leaders, and I don't know why it's like that, but it's hard. It's really hard, but. we're human just like everybody else.
Yeah,
Exactly. And I feel that, most people look so much on is the church, is the people. But it's like that person is not going to give you eternal life. That person is not going to save your soul. So you're mad at the church because of what people have done to you. So there are a lot of people who fall out of the church. Now, I've experienced what God experienced at the other church, but I'm not going to walk away from God because of what people done to me. No, I'm going to find somewhere else to where, I'm going to be able to commune with God. I'm going to be able to, have loving relationships with other people. I'm going to, go somewhere where people are going to, teach me. Because at my church, we didn't have church mothers, and being here, I could have easily left Bright Star early on from being here. I got pregnant out of wedlock. And, at my old church, there were girls who got pregnant, nothing ever happened, they were never sat down. It was a teachable moment for me. I was singing in the choir, praise worship, whatever it was I was doing. Grand pastor called me. She called me one night and, she explained to me, you're gonna have to sit down, because, she explained to me the whole same thing. Yes, I was hurt because I didn't understand. I didn't understand the Church of God in Christ way. Living a holy life and, the whole baby, not getting married, all that stuff. I didn't really understand that. So it was new to me, it was different. I could have easily, I'm not going to that church anymore. I could have had the attitude, I'm not going anymore. But I didn't do that. She knew I was hurt, but I kept coming. I didn't let that deter me from, God's plans for my life. So I feel that a lot of people, I know a lot of friends who go through things in the church and they just leave the church completely. I'm not dealing with that because those people were supposed to be the ones that were there for me. So I think they put more of a high expectation on the people instead of God.
Yeah.
But I also think another point of view of that is accountability. So sometimes, people view church hurt is only as far as someone in the church may have hurt you. But sometimes I feel like people hold us to a standard where they feel like you should already know. This is our family, so they feel like, if I'm down, you're supposed to be the one to pick me up. And sometimes that can be spiritually, that can be, just by conversation, but they're expecting more. Maybe you're not reaching out enough, or maybe they're knowing that they're in a hard time. They're thinking like you would offer to help. And I think sometimes people don't realize that there are people in the church that they haven't been hurt directly, but there's something that they need and they're not getting it. So they feel hurt in the church, but it's not exactly someone in the church hurting them.
I like that point because there's I feel like we all have those people in our lives who are just they hurt me, I'm not going to completely separate. But that too, you get to, or it could be any church. For me, I think it was the beginning part of my salvation. The beginning part of my salvation, Bright Star just was not feeding what I needed at that season in my life. And it was it wasn't that we weren't getting the teaching. It wasn't that it wasn't sound teaching. It wasn't that she don't hear from God because she do. It wasn't none of that. It was just, it wasn't feeding the season of my life that I was in. And I think I probably was a little bit feeling some type of way about that because I'm you're not picking me up, and I need you to pick me up. For people who don't know, I need you to understand or kind of feel what I'm going through, and you're not feeling that. And maybe it's just because I'm family. I think that's a part of it too. And maybe that's a huge reason why I feel like God transitioned me out of Bright Star in that 5 years that I did leave, because that family for us, and I think for us people who grew up with our grandparents or parents being leaders in the church, sometimes they forget that I need you to pick me up like you pick up somebody else, or I need you to feel me like you feel anybody else. And I think that was a part of me too, because I'm just you don't get it, you're not picking it up, and I'm okay, let me just go on. And that was hurtful. So I think that part of it is a good piece to bring out, because I think that's maybe that's how a lot of young people are feeling in church. Because I think, and we've had this conversation about our church, because we have older saints, older saints, and we're just now getting younger people to come in, and they're not really understanding how to interact with us. So you could get hurt at Bright Star if you don't understand like the way that Bright Star works, and that we have to. It's a process that we have to get through. Because there are times when I'm just like, yeah, like y'all don't get it.
That's why people should come to church and be intent on chasing God.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Because you know, people aren't as friendly. You come in like, I went to that church by myself. It was people that wouldn't talk to me. It was like, but I wasn't there for them. Because at that moment, I'm hurt. My grandpa just gone. I'm scared. I have to go to a whole new church by myself. I'm not knowing if I'm making the right decision. So at that point, I had to block all that out. I focused on how the pastor was teaching, how he was preaching, how he interacted with me and the other saints, and that's why that was a good pick for me because you just focus. You gotta focus on God. Because if that was the case, like I said, I would never go. You just have to go in with focus. I'm chasing after God.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So to piggyback off of that, because I think that's like, that is the answer for it all. Honestly, if we go through our experience, our walk of just chasing after God, I feel like all of the extra stuff wouldn't be, of course we're going to, get hit, but it wouldn't be a determining factor for me to leave. For, I don't want to say millennials, for young people, do you think that we have, I'm not going to say we, I'll say we, make it known. Do you think that there is like a loss in understanding of how important it is to chase after God in the relationship with God? Because I think sometimes half of it too, and we just had this conversation at my mom's little conference thing, that so I think we have now influxed the experience of going to church with your relationship with God and don't understand that that is a whole nother separate situation. So do you think that young people have lost touch with what it means to really chase after God?
Definitely. A lot of the young people, honestly, they just go to church to be social, meet new people, hang out. If they don't have that at home, be around somebody. But I think that's a huge negative in our generation because they're going for the wrong thing.
Tradition.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like, this is what I do every Sunday. I go to church. I've been doing it since I was a child. We wake up Sunday morning, what do I have to do? I have to go to church. So I think it's more out of, tradition that I have to be there. I'm gonna show up, pastor, you see me, okay. I'm going now, it's time for me to socialize in the parking lot. You stay on the parking lot for hours after church, and I think that's pretty much what it is. Like a lot of people don't. And it's sad because you could sit in church and look out, and it's just like, are you even here?
Yeah, they're like tuned out.
Are you getting anything? What are you coming for? And I feel that if we have that expectation that this Sunday I'm going to church, for something, I'm expecting God to do something for me. If you don't go with the expectation to get something out, you're not going to get anything out. You're just going out of tradition. I'm just going to church for attendance and socialize. So I really feel that we have gotten away from actually wanting something from God, actually chasing God.
Yeah.
I think partially there's been a disconnect of like the youth kind of seeing the roles in the church being meant for, the mothers, the grandmothers, the older people, and not looking to it as like, this is our relationship with God and I want to grow to be like that person. Like the church is training them up, but if they're not wanting it for themselves, if they're not opening up their heart to accept God in their lives, they're not growing at the pace they should be. There's not enough youth leaders, there's not enough youth in the church that are actively, chasing after God. So I think it's a disconnect of them seeing it's always pushing off to tomorrow, like they're set on their mindset of now and their lifestyle now, and they're not, looking at it up to the people in the church.
And you have because I've talked to like some young girls, and they just have in their mind like, I'm just not ready. I'm not done turning up. And that's the response I get. It's like, why get you've been born and raised in church. I don't see anyone like, what's going on? I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not done turning up, and that's their thing.
Tomorrow's not promised.
It's really not. And it's like the world has such a hold on them, but it's like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I've had this conversation too, and I feel like I understand, I relate, because I'm a newbie. I definitely was very much like, yeah, I'm not ready, but I think I got to a point, again, going away from Bright Star and like going into my new church. For me, I think it takes, and it's sad to say, and I've said this because I feel like even at my old church, we got to a point with our young people, it was just like, all right, they're gonna have to understand it for themselves. And it's like either you're gonna have to get slapped in the face real hard for you to get, okay, like I need him to pick me up. Because I think that I didn't have to get slapped hard in the face. I got slapped in the face, but not hard. But I got to a point where it was just like, the world it's appealing. Like, I'm not gonna say I was not bored, not being safe. Like, I was not bored. Like, I was very much, amused. Like, I had a lot to do. It was a lot to do, but I think you get in like a space where it's just like, there's still a piece missing. And I don't think people realize, because they're filling it up with everything, like especially social media, you just get bombarded with so much stuff that you don't realize, like your mind is constantly going, that you don't realize, like once you sit down and sit still, there's something missing, like there's a disconnect. And I feel like people miss that, like they miss that you think you got it together until you have everything that you've been chasing after accumulating, you're like, something's still missing. Like, we don't get that. And I try for the longest, like, to just, me getting my biggest thing has been like my career, and like me really working on that, because my biggest fear is not being able to sustain myself financially. Like, that is my biggest fear. And so me trying to chase everything else, I realized in the middle of me chasing it, for one, I was making it hard on myself, because if I would have just taken him with it, even if it's just like the little stuff, like it don't have to be, you ain't gotta be like, all right, I'm gonna be saved and filled with the Holy Ghost today, and that's what it's gonna be, even though they want you to be. Like, just making those little conscious decisions, like, all right, I'm gonna go to church today, and I'm gonna go, like you said, with the mind to be like, God, I need something from you. And like, you don't realize that little stuff like builds up, and you're like, oh, I've been walking with it for 2 years. Like, it's just the little stuff, and like we forget that. And I think young people, like, we're just so like, my generation, I'll say it since you said the age difference is big. We're just like, so like, I want it now, I want it now, I want it now. And it's just, we don't appreciate like the journey that God is trying to take you on, and just the places that he's taking you to. It'll make you so much better. Like, I be thinking back like to when I was 17 and like 16, like these girls that I was talking to, I'm like, girl, if I would just got together then, I probably would be 6 figures by now. But yeah, so I think that's like a huge thing. So what do you think the biggest misconception is? We're all saved. So what do you think the biggest misconception about salvation is that just makes it so like, I still want to turn up? Like, what is that like? Because I feel like they think you're saved, so you just be like, you don't do anything. Yeah, you can't do anything. And I would say to myself, that was I'm not gonna lie, that was my thing. Like, I told my mom straight out, like, y'all can't do nothing. Like, y'all saved and y'all can't do nothing. But like, what if that's what it is? Because I had that too. Like, I can't do nothing.
Like, I can't wear my hair. Like, I mean, like I said, being in church in Christ is like totally different. It's totally different. To where it's like, I felt plenty of times that I couldn't be myself. It's like, I'm sorry, I love hair. Y'all know I change my hair all the time. I love getting my hair cut. I love color. And it was just like, oh, such and such said that, hair, I'm like, I can't wear this. It's not like it's a highlighter color. And like, the thing like with my nails, I love getting my nails done. I love different colors. I love experimenting with colors. There's one particular event that I had to do, what was it? I had to do a tribute. And, my nails, I had 2 nails that were painted a green color. And something was said about that. And I went on a rant about it. I'm like, I don't understand. And they're like, well, that's a distraction to other people. I said, they shouldn't be focused on my nails anyways. Like, I don't talk with my hands like that. They shouldn't be focused on my nails. Like, be focused on what I'm saying. But some people are just like that, you know, they're focused. Like, I honestly felt that I couldn't be me for a long time. It's like you're taking that away from me. It's like you're taking my identity, my individuality. This is who I am. And you're telling me that I can't do what it is that, like, I'm not gonna go to hell for having green nails. I'm not gonna go to hell for having, you know, a red streak in my hair. You know, so things like that. We just feel that I can't do anything. And that's how I felt for a long time. It's like I can't do nothing.
Yeah. That's because Cammy, is your church a church out of Christ or no?
No, we're non-denominational,
Okay.
but my pastor was raised, brought up, taught Church of God in Christ. So when I first went there, I'm like, non-denominational, all of us culture, right? But they do everything the same. Like the beliefs are the same, the teachings are the same. It's just my pastor said he wanted the outsiders to be comfortable. So he doesn't preach in suits all the time. He would preach in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. And he's just like, you know, I don't want to bring all that strictness over into the church.
So that's what I was going to ask you, because I feel like since we all did grow up Church of God in Christ, for those who don't know, it's just another denomination of Christianity. But being Church of God in Christ, you feel like, because even when the church that I went to was Church of God in Christ, but it was still like completely different, because my pastor, y'all know my pastor, she's still my pastor, but she was completely different. Like, she's a woman pastor. That in itself, like being young and doing all she does, that's something different in itself. But do you think that there is like, is it just Church of God in Christ? Because I love Church of God in Christ. I wouldn't be anything else. Like, I just love like the teaching that we get. I appreciate it so much. But that is like my biggest pet peeve. And that is probably why I've said this to my pastor before, and I've said it to my mama, so I'm not afraid to say it on camera. That I am like not gung ho, I'm like chasing, like, cause you know how like in our church like to like go further, like do more in ministry, and like they want you to get a title like deaconess, missionary, and all type of stuff. And that has never, when I say never, like you can have it. I will be a pew member if I gotta do it, cause that it's just like the reach, like literally like from your hair to your neck, and I'm just like I know for a fact red lipstick gonna sweet hell, and if y'all focus on the red lipstick and not what I'm saying, that ain't my problem, that's yours. Like, but
I think it all just depends on the leader. Because every leader is different. Even though my grandfather was a pastor, my grandma was the first lady, he could tell me I can wear pants. She would say, no, you can't. And it's just like, Papa said. He was ready. Oh my gosh. But I think it just depends on the leader.
okay, so just a couple more questions to wrap this up, because I like the way the conversation went. So, do you guys think that there is an importance for the church and the saints to evolve as a whole, and not necessarily change what we believe, but just change the way in which we approach and bring people in?
So I believe it's important for, like I said, for the church to basically recognize their audience and cater to that person, and especially like when you have new souls coming into the church and trying to build up their relationship with Christ. They don't view church as the same way we do growing up in church. They're still learning. So it's more so of coming to a place where you can relate with them and kind of guide them up, but not so much of the church as a whole having to change.
Okay.
Yes. I feel that the church should evolve, because like each generation is different, each era is different. You know, our upbringings are different, what we experience are different. We don't stray away from our foundation, which is holiness. You know, we don't stray away from that, the basic teaching. But in order to be, and here's that word we've been dealing with all night, is being relevant. You know, we have to know, like you said, our audience. We have to know who's going to relate to us, who can we relate to, because there are some people in the church that may not reach me the way someone else will reach me.
Mm-hmm.
So we also have to keep that in mind as well when it comes to, you know, trying to draw people in.
Yeah.
You know, how you're gonna keep my attention, how you're gonna keep my focus, you know, in church.
Mm-hmm.
How you're gonna be to make me want to come to church, to keep coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm gonna come this time, but what have you done to be like, okay, I think I'm gonna go again because you know that person gets me.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, I can relate to this person. This is a person that I can talk to get me through whatever it is. You know, so I think we have to keep that in mind, not straying away from what we've been taught, the holiness, you know, our basic foundation, but because the world is always changing.
And the church is already behind.
Mm-hmm.
Far behind.
So yeah, that just don't stray away from the foundation. Just think of different ways to present it.
Yeah.
Right.
Holiness is right,
Mhm.
but you gotta switch it up.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in
Right.
younger pastors, like if you have older pastors,
Mhm.
do revivals, bring in younger pastors, but you have to keep that youthfulness in there somehow if you have a young church.
Yeah.
Exactly, because we normally hear like, and this is one thing that this is like, you know, the way we dress, you know. Oh, baby, you know, the skirt is a little too short, too tight. It's like, okay, yes, we understand that, but it's like, my soul is what's important. You know, reach me there instead of
And then
not
everything
what I
else
have
will
on.
change,
Like,
yeah.
everything else will fall in line,
Mhm.
you know, and will line up. But if you're attacking me on him because of what I have on, I'm not wearing stockings on, my dress is too short. It's like, that's all gonna be, that's gonna be implanted in my mind. That's all I'm gonna think about. And so if I go to that church, you know, I have to worry about how I'm dressed.
You end up
You know,
with
but
Right,
you're
but not
missing.
gonna come.
Exactly.
That's where you lose a lot of
Right, because you lose a lot of them. It's like I think, you know, with our older saints, and I appreciate it. And you know, me coming here when I first got to Christ, you know, I had some of them mothers. You know, I appreciate, you know, you're older saint, you know, you're the mother of the church, and they did it out of love. You know, it was, you know, baby, you know, mother love you, and that's the first thing they say. You know, mother love you, but your skirt is a little too tight, skirt is a little too short. You know. And I've never had, you know, mothers in my old church growing up that taught me, you know, how I should dress at church, you know, how not to wear tight, you know, form-fitting things or shirt things. And I was like smaller when I first got here. So of course I wore things that were, you know, form-fitting. But I think that they get away from what's most important, and it's our souls.
So that, because I was going to ask this, I guess kind of two question, because I a while ago, I started asking this question, like, what is it about like these mega churches, like these churches with like 5,000 people that continuously come, like what about them that appeals people that we as like, I don't want to say Church of Christ, there's a lot of us, but like in our local churches we miss, because I was able to go to this it was called Redemption Conference or something. And it was this Pastor John Carpenter in San Jose. And we went because T.D. Jakes was there and like, that's my bishop. Outside my bishop. And we were able to go to that and just to like be, and of course it's a non-denominational church, so they come like pants or however you really want to come. As long as they have people coming, like just how they come. You got people dressed like how we dress, and you got people in shorts, you got people in pants. It was like a whole bunch of people. But like the experience there, like they were very much like worried about, are you saved? Are you worried about like showing you love? I want you to come back. There's more to do. And like I always was like, so what about us? And this is not to bash Church of God in Christ, because I love Church of God in Christ, but what is it about us that we can't just seem to focus on that piece? Because we realize, like, me being saved, me personally, I like wearing form-fitting stuff, because I like my body, but I just like wearing form-fitting stuff. But I understand me getting saved, like before, I was like, I'm gonna wear what I want to wear. Like, at a certain age, like my mama ain't gonna tell me what to wear. So I'm gonna wear what I want to wear. But I think people like forget that once you get saved and you really just have a heart for God and for God's people, like everything else will follow. Like if it really offends you, okay, I'm gonna wear the stockings today if I'm getting up, or I'm gonna wear the longest just to not offend you, just because I want to be Christ-like. And I think a lot of times we miss that. Just reach for my soul first, and then everything else will follow. Like I'll receive easily what you say, because I feel like when they attack that first, what happens is you have a lot of well-dressed, unsaved church folks. Like a lot of like they below the knee stockings, closed-toe shoes, shirt like this. But when you leave these four walls, you act a fool. Like I would never know you go to church. So it's like we have to get back to that, win the soul first. Like, and I think that's like a big part. So just last question, because I'm so grateful that you guys did this. I'm so grateful for those watching. It was a struggle to do this. And these ladies just stuck with me every time I changed the day and the time and So, just one last question. For the conversation that we had, what do you, and we'll start with Candy. What do you really want, like just from what you said in the conversation we had, what do you want people to take away just from this conversation? What do you want people looking, hopefully there's young people watching that are going to church and not going to church, but what do you really just want them to take away from this conversation?
I want you guys to take away from what we talked about, that it's okay. I'm not going to say it's okay to dress how you want, but it's okay to come with what you have, because at the end of the day, it's about your soul. God loves you whether you're in a sweatsuit, a long skirt, stockings, a bathing suit. He's looking at your soul. God looks at your heart, and don't let what people say about how you dress or how you look keep you away from going to church.
I think an important thing that came from what we talked about today is for people to realize there are people in the church and there are people that have the same heart as the people that are looking to follow Christ. It is possible to surround yourself with people your age or like-minded that you can grow it and that can hold you spiritually. You guys can hold each other accountable.
For me, just to basically because this is an individual thing, we have to find God for ourselves. No matter what it is that you experience in the church, don't leave God, because we find ourselves a lot of the times, leaving God because people hurt us. We take it out on God. So I would just encourage you to, if you find yourselves in those situations, to just look to God, pray to God, and, see where God leads you. Because He could lead you right over here by Star. You're going to be loved and have that support. And, this is, like I said, I tell people a lot that I go to Bright Star because of the love. And I really mean that. Get to somewhere where you're going to get the Bible teaching, not people's philosophies, their theories, none of that. Go somewhere where you're going to get the unadulterated gospel, the Word of God.
What's up, you boo? And just to close it out, for those who are watching this first episode of We Speak, the whole goal is for you, people watching church and outside of church and inside of church, to really understand that God is for everybody, and that He has no respect in person, and that we really just aim for you to get to know God. It doesn't have to be the Church of God in Christ. It can be wherever God is leading you to go. Just know that God is for you, He loves you, and He wants you to have a relationship with Him, and that He loves you. And thank you for watching. Thank you.